Dear fellow coders, welcome to One Little Coder. If you are somebody who follows the GPT related news, you might have seen that there's a new kid in the block which is GPT-J. It's a 6 billion parameter model. It is a JAX based model, and now there are a lot of things that is going on. So this video is going to tell you quickly about what is GPT-J and why you might want to use it, and if you want to use it, how you can use it. So most of the resources that I've used for this video is based on a blog post and a GitHub repository, which I'll link it in the YouTube description. So to get started, first of all, what is GPT family of models? So GPT-3 is a very popular model that was open source, not really open source, that was released by OpenAI quite some time back, and then it was revolutionary, at least in the media, but it was very good in generating text. It was almost as if it is human being, and then a lot of articles were written using GPT-3, fooling humans how machines can write actually better articles than human beings, or at least almost resembling human beings. So this is GPT-3. Now, because GPT-3 was not open sourced by OpenAI, which actually end up giving exclusive rights to Microsoft, which is a different topic altogether. So open source community started thinking that what can we do to replicate GPT-3? And that is where this quest to create an open source alternative for GPT family of models or to reach that pinnacle of GPT-3 started. So there is a company called EleutherAI. So that company recently had released GPT-Neo, which was until now the most accurate or most the closest equivalent of GPT-3, and that model is called GPT-Neo. So it was released, as you can see, on 31st March. That was GPT-Neo, but the same company or the same community of researchers, thanks to them and then the wonderful research that they have done, so now recently they have released GPT-G. So now the difference between GPT-G and GPT-Neo is GPT-G works on par with GPT-3, which is the unreleased model by OpenAI. Like, even though the company is called OpenAI, they didn't release the model, they just gave the API access to a bunch of beta testers, and then it was impressive. So now what changes is that GPT-Neo had was like 1.3 billion parameter model, and then they had a 2.7 billion parameter model, and then which you can also call from Hugging Face. So I've got a separate video about it, how you can create a blog post entirely using GPT-Neo, which I'll link in the description. You should check it out. But with respect to GPT-J, GPT-J is a 6 billion parameter model, which is trained on Pile. Now, what is Pile? So the question is very simple. Pile is a very big, large data set, and then the data set size is, I think, around 800 GB, approximately 800 GB of open source language modeling data set. I think GPT-3 was trained on this thing, so you can see some benchmarking scores, and GPT-J has been trained on Pile itself. So if you see, that's what GPT-J. So now, why does the name GPT-J? So the name GPT-J is primarily because GPT-J is a JAX based transformer model. So all these GPT family of models are transformer based models, and GPT-J is a JAX based model. Now the question is, if you have not heard about what is JAX, JAX is just like TensorFlow and PyTorch. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it. So JAX is a library, Python library to be specific, from Google, which is extensively used by Google and DeepMind for doing deep learning at scale. So to give you a sense, so they say JAX has autograde and XLA, and the most important thing that I would like to point out is the documentation, which clearly says JAX is like NumPy, or it is NumPy, on CPU, GPU, TPU with great automatic differentiation. Like, you don't have to do anything specific for high performance machine learning research. So one of the important aspects of JAX is you can write a single same code snippet for CPU or GPU or TPU, unlike TensorFlow or PyTorch, where you have to do a lot of customization if you want to move to parallel processing or large scale machines like GPU, CPU, TPU. So that is JAX. So JAX is doing actually a great in a lot of aspects. A lot of people started trying out JAX. Especially you might find a very nice blog post from DeepMind about how they are using JAX. So that said, so you can read a lot about JAX and the syntax. Like, the way you use JAX is very simple, like how you use any Python package. You just install pip, install JAX, you import JAX, and then you start writing very similar like how you use NumPy. You can start using it. So GPT-J is called GPT-J because it's a JAX based transformer model, and 6B stands for 6 billion. And why did they select JAX? So the reason they selected JAX is because JAX is much faster. JAX has got much faster decoding even than TensorFlow, especially with TPUs. So JAX plus XMAP is used for parallel processing. So it actually gives a very straightforward parallel processing than working around with code a lot, and that's why JAX has been selected. And this, I think until now you would have probably seen, like, we have learned what is GPT family of models, GPT-J, what is the 6 billion thing, which is like the number of parameters that is used for training this model. So more number of parameters means the model, you can automatically assume that the model is going to be heavy. It takes a lot of time to train the model, and also it's going to be more accurate than the previous family of models. So now the point is that they're making is GPT-J-6B is nearly on par with the 6.7 billion model of GPT-3, which is actually a good thing, especially on a zero shot downstreaming tasks. Like if you want to do text generation without having any your own checkpoint, or you are not going to do any training, so you're going to just use you just download the pre-trained model, and then you're going to do text generation. So GPT-J-6B performs on par with 6.7 billion parameter GPT-3 model. A couple of reasons that they have pointed out. So wonderful blog post, you should definitely read it out, and then give a shout out to Aaron for writing this amazing blog post which explains a lot of things. So GPT, like if you are wondering like why do you want GPT-J, so one of the important aspect is GPT-J is open source, which means what is happening inside, and again you don't have any other option because GPT-3 has not been open sourced by OpenAI, and it is available as an API only for a selected set of users. But if you want to use for commercial purpose, I think you have to pay a bunch of API calls money, and I think it is also currently available only for Microsoft to use GPT-3 API. GPT-J is more flexible and faster inference, especially when you are using a combination of TensorFlow plus TPU. So JAX, which is like JAX plus TPU combination, is much better than that's JAX plus XMAP plus TPU combination is much better than, and also it's easy to scale it for large scale models. So that's another good thing. So one more thing finally I wanted to highlight is how much time that they took to train the model, which is weeks, I think. So yeah, so GPT-J was trained for roughly 5 weeks on a TPU machine, V3 256 machine, for 5 weeks. So that's a huge amount of computation power, and then I think somebody kind enough was sponsoring this computation power to them. So thanks to anybody who supports open source project. So now this is all about GPT-J, which you should definitely check it out as a part of this blog post and also this GitHub repository. Please make sure that you start the repository if you have not. But what if you want to try out this thing? So there are two ways that you can try it out. So one is the collab demo, the second one is the web demo. So web demo is a web, as the name says. There is a web demo. You can just go there, and then you can write anything that you want. You can say like TensorFlow versus PyTorch, and then you can ask the model to run. You have 2 parameters to tune and then get. So now it's going to probably give you a result, which might take some time. So this is one way if you want to just look at how good this GPT-J 6 billion parameter model is. But if you want to use it with your own stuff, like if you want to use it on Colab, the easiest option is the Colab notebook that they've given on the GitHub repository, which you can just click and then open it, and then you just have to copy it into your own space, like save it in your own drive. Make sure that you select the runtime, change runtime of TPU, make sure that you have got TPU selected as runtime, and rest is you just have to start installing the library. And then it has got good comments about like every single section, what is happening in each section, and at the end you can give a prompt text, and then you can generate an ultimate text that you want to generate. So this is another very good option, that if you want to, let's say, create an API out of it, like use fast API and then create an API out of it. So the potential is immense, and I should really thank the team for actually putting together a Colab notebook, because everybody these days, it's very easy for anybody to do applied NLP, just clicking Colab notebook and then get started immediately. So If you are into text generation, you want the highest accurate open source model that is probably available. I think GPT-J-6B, which is a 6 billion parameter autoregressive text generation model, which is trained on the pile, is the answer for you. And you can try it out on the web interface or also on the Collab notebook, and you can see that when we said TensorFlow versus PyTorch, so it has created some kind of text as an output. So you can you can create blog posts out of it, you can write essays out of it, you can create articles out of it, you can even use it for a lot of different purposes. You can definitely check it out. The way people were using GPT-3 API, like somebody used it for web development, creating boilerplate codes for web development. Somebody used it for creating SQL code. Somebody used it for doing a natural language processing to SQL code. So a lot of advantages are there. You can try to replicate the same use cases using GPT-J-6B. And that's it. I will link all these links in the description. You should definitely check it out, and please give a huge shout out to the team that has put enormous amount of resources, time, especially Ben Wong and Aaron Komatsuzuki for making this project and making a very detailed blog post, making it open source, and also writing an amazing documentation for anybody to get started with on the Collab notebook. So it has been released under Apache license, which means like it's a permissive license, so you can start using it, and then you can see some benchmark scores here. So it's an amazing time that we live in. So the company that calls itself OpenAI has not open sourced the library or model, but some true kind people in the open source community have made it possible for us to get it. So please check it out. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Otherwise, stay safe.